to really start to address some of the issues here in our state.
Okay, Chuck, you'll handle this question first. One of the most difficult things about representing a Southern Colorado district is obtaining money for Southern Colorado when you're competing against Northern Colorado cities and communities. We just saw last week where we lost some highway funding money for a project north of town to a project in Colorado Springs. How will you overcome those type of obstacles if elected?
Well, one of the things is, I think, the reality is, and I mentioned this several times before, the reality is we're competing with Denver for everything. And really, as an individual legislator representing House District 47, I really don't have a chance. So from my standpoint, as I travel around this community, I bump into a lot of multi-district representatives. And what I tell those people is, look, when the dust settles, we're not about Democrats, we're not about Republicans, but we're about Southeast Colorado. So what we've got to do is come together and form a coalition. And we need to form a voting bloc that understands the needs of our constituents from Alamosa to the Kansas border to the El Paso County line. And we have to create a voter bloc that supports each other's initiatives. One of the worst things that's happened is, again, like this room is divided, we end up dividing ourselves into Democrats and Republicans, and we forget that we're representing our community out there. And we've got to do that by working together. And so, I've spent an entire career developing teams and solving problems, and that's how I would do it. Thank you.
Clarice?
Well, being raised in Southeast Colorado, born in Rocky Ford, lived and grew up in Los Animas, I'm used to the fight. Now that I live here in Pueblo and I have been able to meet the great people that are here, I had the opportunity to work in Penrose and Fremont with several individuals, and I know, and it will always be a fight, and I will continue to fight for Southeast Colorado, as I always have as a community leader, as a 4-H mom, as a wife that's extremely proud of my husband. I will continue my fight.
Chuck? Okay. Clarice, you handle this one next. We've been talking a lot in both the forums tonight about the difficulty with the economy. People lose their jobs, they go on unemployment, and they just keep going and looking, and they can't find jobs. Do you think that do you have any ideas for what else the state could do to help people in those circumstances?
Well, it's unfortunate that we are in this situation that we are. However, I think we need to provide some better education classes that could be free to our communities. When I was a teacher at the Department of Corrections, I taught under Otero Junior College, and I taught those inmates how to go in, fill out an application, write a resume, have interviews. So I know that it's done, and I know that once those inmates completed my course and came out with a certificate from Otero Junior College, they came out with something that said, you know what, I went in, I made a mistake, but this is what I've done to change my life. This is what I've done to come out and prosper in this community. I think that's what our community needs. Our community needs to get back together as a group, as a whole. We need to get out, and we may be offered a job that's not the one that we want, but at this point, we take what we can get and we grow from there.
Well, Colorado is the 10th most positive business climate in the United States. And I think keeping that in mind, I think one of the things we need to do is develop a Southeast Colorado economic development plan. Now, I did work as a citizen with Governor Ritter preliminarily developing that same kind of concept. And I think what happens here, it really kind of goes back to having the strength in numbers. But I think what we need to do is develop a Southern Colorado economic development plan that kind of represents our region of the district. Having Joe Garcia up there as a lieutenant governor gives us the opportunity to take advantage of perhaps the ear of the governor. When it comes to the legislature, I guarantee Denver's for Denver, and they're going to be against us. However, the governor is the one person who's concerned for his entire state. Just as he did with Fort Lyons, I think if we are proactive in unifying Southeast Colorado and develop our own Southeast Colorado business development and economic development plan and approach the governor, I think we could probably get some help from the governor. And I think that's critical in our struggle because we're going to be against the Denver legislature. We need some help.
Okay. Well, we're down to our final question, and Chuck, you'll handle this one. Every election still comes down to a choice between individuals. And so it really comes down to why should voters select you rather than your opponent?
Well, I've at length this evening, or at least mentioned a number of times my experience. My experience is really the private sector experience. Some 15 or so years I've been in venture capital and in state government, the highest levels of state government. I think throughout that time, I've learned a vast number of things. And I look back to my military time to begin. I learned the value of teamwork, and I think, and leadership. And I think those are the two qualities that over the years have helped me advance my career and be so successful. But, and through my entire career, I've had to work on a consensus model. And I think that's what we're direly missing in the state legislature. We need to come together, not as Democrats and Republicans, but as concern for our community. We need to put the problem in the middle of the table, and we need to come up with solutions. And I've spent 35 years successfully doing that and employing that model. And so I think that really, as we look at this thing here, we step into the legislature. We don't have a learning curve up there. We're on the ground, and we better hit the ground running. And I've got 35 years of extreme training in solving problems. That was and bringing people together to solve problems. And so I think as and actually 20 years working behind the legislature. So again, I don't feel as a freshman stepping into this whole thing. I think I can hit the ground running.
Clarice?
Well, I operate off of core values like honesty, personal accountability, integrity, and hard work. Every decision I make at the state capitol will be based off of those core values. The reason I speak so highly of my education and my experiences is because I am a product of this district. So for me, it's not about politics, it's about home. Thank you.
It's all about politics.
Okay, well, that concludes the question and answer portion of the program. And if you recall, Clarice won the coin toss and elected to go first. That meant Chuck would go last. So, Clarice, we'll begin with you in the closing remarks.
Well, again, I want to thank everybody here for being here and taking an interest in your candidates who are going to represent you at the state capitol. Again, we do have an unemployment issue. We have people that need jobs. I am the pro-business candidate, and I am going to get those people back to work. Thank you.
As I mentioned earlier, I've knocked on about 9,000 doors since this campaign began, talking to people out there about their issues and their concerns. Overwhelmingly, 95% say it's jobs, the economy, healthcare, and education. So I think we've got our work cut out for us. I think that in terms of addressing the area of healthcare, there's some pretty exciting things on the horizon up there. Colorado's been very proactive, unlike a lot of states who have balked at the Affordable Care Act. Colorado got on, by bipartisan effort, decided they were going to take full advantage of the opportunities offered by the Affordable Care Act. And the good news about that is that they really anticipate, healthcare policy and finance anticipate that we could actually see 20% increase in our budget by taking advantage of the opportunity to defer a lot of Medicaid cases over to private insurance. The other thing is the hospital provider fee was a part of that Colorado Affordable Health Care Act. And what that did is capture a lot of federal dollars that transferred into our Medicaid and over to children's support. That in turn swung itself around to take the pressure off of hospitals for unfunded treatment. The other thing that happened is that recently you may have seen, and this is again under the Affordable Care Act, the Rocky Mountain Farmers Union got a $69 million federal loan to open up a healthcare co-op for rural Colorado, and that's the first thing of its kind. The importance there is that about 30% to 35% of your money goes into the insurance industry. A co-op automatically saves that 30%. There's been talk about a Colorado cooperative. So I think as a legislature with a lot of background in employee benefits, I'm very anxious to get up there and help solve that problem.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for coming tonight. That concludes this forum. Drive safely. Good night.